The next step is to mix up the epoxy, which will be both tinted and thickened. And the order is very important, according to Brian, so I'll be following his directions. First step is to mix the resin and the hardener following the manufacturer's instructions. I'm using Rocca, and I have these giant cups, so I can't do 2 to 1. I called Rocca, and it's 100 to 43. So let's zero this in grams. Last time, if you recall, I used around 18 grams, and that was just sort of arbitrary, and it was pretty good. Let's get down my fingers, right? Oh yeah, 17 grams. I am just so good. 43% of 17 is, well, I don't do math. Hey Siri, what's 43% of 17?
The answer is 7.31.
7.31. So this just went down to 16. So it's right on the edge. So I'll just do 7 plus, I'll go up to 23-ish. That's already at 23, okay. Mix it thoroughly. I think Rocca said 3 minutes, and I will do that. No point in having the timer show me do it. Though I'm going to try really hard not to get air bubbles. I got last time too many air bubbles last time. I'm done mixing it. Got a lot of air bubbles, but oh well, that's what it is. I also set a timer for 32 minutes, which is the approximate working time. So I'll be warned if something goes bad. Mix in the tint. It doesn't take much, about 10 to 12, 15% of the amount of epoxy in order to produce an opaque mixture. The tint is thick and takes time to dissolve in the epoxy, so mix it well. Shake pigment bottle well before use. Okay. When I opened this before, it wasn't thick, so let's see what happens. It still seems pretty thin. No, that's thick. Whoa, too much? Oh well. You can't see it on the camera. When you look in, you can see parts that are opaque, but you can see sort of swirls where the clear epoxy is still there. So mixing it in is pretty important. And it actually didn't take that long. I can't see my bubbles also, which is nice. If you've got good stuff, this is Rocca epoxy pigment. It's good stuff, I guess. Next step is the thickener. I'm using System 3 silica thickener, which is a really fine powder. So I'm going to put the PPE on it because I don't want to breathe this stuff if it gets up in the air. This weighs nothing. Crazy. It takes a surprising amount. Thick enough to stay in place, the surface will still self-level. We're going for a mayonnaise-like consistency. I'm going to get all the big lumps going first. It's very lumpy. A little more. It's not poofing up in the air at all, so this might not have been necessary, but I don't want to breathe this stuff. I mean, mayonnaise, I know. It's still pretty liquidy. I want more. It is self-leveling, but it's not thick enough. Might be it. What I was saying is that it's been 6 minutes since I started this. This is one of the reasons I went with a very slow curing epoxy. That's 6 minutes of my 35 minutes working time. And I'm probably going to use it. I wish I had masked off that one. I probably could do this again. But let's go tint. The thickened epoxy does not spread as easily as unthickened epoxy, so take a stiff bristle brush and more effort to apply a smooth, even coat 1/32 to a 1/16 inch thick. Apply it along the masked line first. Try not to overlap the tape if possible, but don't worry if you do. Spray the mixture toward the tip, blah blah blah. Make sure you get off on the edges. Repeat the other 3 sides. These are acid brushes I got off of eBay or Amazon. It's like $10 for 30 of them. I don't think they're going to be. I think they're going to be too flexible, so I've got scissors to shorten them. That looks awful. That is so not smooth. I'm going to have to sand, I know. That's gross. Hate that. I'm not sure if it's too thick or not stirred enough. It's gross though. Well, I can tell now I'm probably doing a second coat. I'll have to let this harden, sand it, and then use less of the thickener. Look at that. It's not mayonnaise anymore. Maybe stir it better. I don't know. That's horrible. I think it's too thick. I can see plenty of white, but I can still see the grain. It's not opaque even. So that implies not enough tint. There's going to be some sanding in my future, isn't there? It's not doing any self-leveling at all. That's horrible. I'm not going to apply this to the end. I'll mix up a new batch. I guess you'll get to see that. Okay, so that was 18, 20, 14 minutes from when I was done mixing this till I got to the state. And I am not happy with it. A new brush will make me happy, probably not, right? No, that makes me unhappy more because it just drags the too thick stuff away. I can see wood now. So the moral of this story is before you apply this to your good paddle, apply it to a piece of scrap and see how it goes, because I'm not happy. Nice and thick on the tips though, so that's good. There's going to be a lot of sanding in my future. That's gross. So I've put a lot less thickener in. It definitely is self-leveling. Let's see how it goes. I've also cut bristles off the brush like Brian did. Don't like the cut bristles at all. It's looking a lot better. though it's still not making me very happy. I think what it is the silica thickener is very chunky, and I'll show you a still of that right now. You can see what I'm talking about the silica powder. I mean, there's giant chunks like this, but even in this small stuff, there's lots of little chunks, and trying to mash it together, trying to mash it down, this just needs to be sifted or something, but it's so fine. You can see here. You can see how the wind just catches it. That's the fine powder you want. I don't know how to get this powder fine. See what I mean? And I tried breaking up those chunks with my spoon, and it looks like I was only partially successful. Though also it does appear that I did use way too much on the other end. Great, I got a hair in there. Great, got two of them. Now I got epoxy on my fingers, of course. Isn't that fun? No, I didn't think I need to wear gloves today, did I? I even have them over there. So I can definitely see what I did wrong. It was too thick before. This, I can see what the self-leveling means. That wasn't self-leveling. The second is, see those bumps? That's probably thickener that didn't break up. So it's just a giant blob of the silica, which I hope when I sand doesn't leave holes, but we'll find out. Certainly a second coat's coming. Yeah, well, we'll see how it looks after I sand, right? Yeah, that's dripping onto my tarp. The other stuff wasn't drippy at all. Brian says try not to get it onto the masking tape, but don't worry if you do. And I don't have any patience for that right now. I just don't. Well, I'm going to stop this for now and come out every 5 minutes and rotate it just so the lumps don't get too thick, I guess. I'm not sure how long I have to do that for. This epoxy has a 24-hour cure time. I'm certainly not doing that all day. Definitely, there'll be sanding on this. You'll see that in a few moments because I'll have to wait 24 hours, but you'll see it in a few moments. Take care. So this is probably the worst of the sides. It's kind of neat. The other side, which is the would look awful yesterday, and this was the second side. You can see how bumpy it is. And one of the things that happened here was when I was turning it every 5 minutes, and a friend came by to visit, so I didn't turn it anymore. And I scuffed it up with this, which is at 180, and it's working some, but it's going to take forever. These things are huge, so I'm going to try a couple things. I could try a spoke shave, just to get it in there. A chisel I could also try, but I want to try this instead. This is what's a knife I've had since the 70s. This is a French oboe reed making knife, and I did recently sharpen this, so it should be pretty good. I'm just going to go in here and try and shave. Ah, it's working perfectly. Look at that. The epoxy isn't fully cured. This is 24-hour curing epoxy. It's been about 15, so this is going to be a really nice technique. Look at that. Now this will get rid of where the epoxy is too thick. Some of these bubbles over here, let's try one. I'm worried about them because they could just be that silica. Oh, that's perfect. Hard to control. I'm cutting in right here also, which I didn't want to do. Do you notice I almost went like that? One rule of carving is you never carve towards yourself. See, now this is much lower. I've taken probably a 16th or even an eighth of the lumps off, and that will, the rest can be getting done by sandpaper. I'll trim a little bit more, but. That's looking real good there. Let's try some of these. These were caused by the liquid epoxy flowing down, or probably it's upside down when it was curing. These bumps are the silica dust, I bet. Not going nearly as nicely. That might just have to be sanded away. Yes, it's hard, might not be hard to see with the camera, but that just sort of popped off, and now it looks like it's hollow inside there. These are bubbles that have popped right there. Okay, I'm going to be done. I've done on the video, so I got a lot more work to do here. I wanted to just flip it around to the other side so you can see what the first side looked like. Side where I'm pretty sure I didn't have enough of the tint in. You can still see some of the wood through it. And I also didn't have enough of the thickener, except that I had more chunks. So let's take this and see what that's going to do to it. This is 180 grit. It's not doing much for the little bumps, but you can see you can cut them right off. And we have grossness on the tip here. That's just a drip that came down. It's kind of nice having the epoxy still be soft. It just cuts like a very thick putty right now. Presumably in 12 hours this will be hard and brittle, and then it might shatter. I don't know. Some of these over here appear to be bubbles that have already popped, or maybe the sanding popped them. Not towards yourself, Paul. That's going to need a lot more work, but I don't think it's ruined, which is good. I didn't want it to be ruined. This is a really nice tool for this. Already the tips feel nice just with this little bit of work. Good. Well, I'm going to call that a wrap for today. There's a lot more work to do, but it doesn't need to film it out. I also need to run out and get some more of these, and maybe they have them in coarser ones also. This is the only one I have, and it's a really good tool for doing this. And also I want to resume it, I think, once this has hardened. And I've got all the bubbles down when it's softer. I think sanding will work better when it says fully cured. Of course, I'm never done. I was just putting the tools away and I realized I wanted to try And put down the French knife and try the chisel. And the chisel is actually working really well. It's got better control than the French knife. I thought with the French knife I'd be able to, be angling it and making big motions here and small motions there. What's nice about this, the French knife, it's hard to tell. It's got a concave surface to it, and it's hard to get it flat against the workpiece. And here I can just go in and just shave these little knobs down. This is really going to save time sanding. All the little ones are going away. Not towards my hand. Oh, that's really nice there. I'll do all the paddle now while the epoxy is still somewhat soft.